Cool. We are recording now. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Who I have on the phone with me today is Will Ratelle. Will Ratelle is the Assistant Director of Sports Performance and Strength and Conditioning at the Tropical University of North Dakota. As I've coined it many a times where I used to work. Will, take it away. Introduce yourself. Tell us whatever you want everyone all 15 viewers to know about you.
Well, thanks for doing this with me. I love doing this kind of stuff. I just love talking to different people in the field about really anything. So I'm really excited to do this with you. I think it'll be really fun. But yeah, so I've been at UND I'm going into my third year this fall. I work with men's basketball, volleyball, men's and women's tennis, and then I assist with football. Just like most people in this field, got a degree in kinesiology, got my master's in kinesiology. And I love training. I love being around athletes. I love the sports world. So that's why I got into this field. And I take a lot of pride in what I do and just want to keep developing however I can. So that's why I love talking to different people with different ideas. Such as yourself, Sean, and anyone else who is willing to have conversations with. I just love to try to push that needle as much as I can and develop as much as I can. So yeah, I've been at UND for going on 3 years, like I said, and I look forward to this upcoming season if we have one, I guess, with everything going on. Hopefully we have one because I love what I do. So I don't know how much of an introduction that is that I gave myself, but that's kind of where I'm at.
That's awesome. I appreciate it. And I know that in Grand Forks, North Dakota, it's not something that you could just drive down the street and go visit the next school, your rival school, and just hang out with your other strength coaches. And I know something that I did is kind of what you started doing really early too, is talking with different people, being on the phone with people. I have spent so much time on the phone just with different people from Texas, from Denver, from Florida. Like I tried to just branch out. Has that been something that you've accommodated to doing in kind of like your coaching evolution? Because you started as an intern whenever I first got to know you. Well, you were in the NFL for a year or two, and then interned with the strength staff. So tell us a little bit about how you kind of have evolved from that intern role.
Yeah, you put it exactly the way it is. Like, as I've grown, I've just become way more open-minded about other methods and the way other people do things. And probably just within the last 6, 7, 8 months is really when I've been reaching out to other people and just trying to figure out what other people are doing with their teams at their schools. And seeing if there's some similarities, differences. If there's some similarities, we're probably doing something right. If there's some differences, one of us is probably wrong or could be wrong. So maybe figure out who's right and who's wrong in that situation, and just try to find solutions the best way we can. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm gonna continue trying to do so.
I think that it took me a while to get to that point where it wasn't that I was comfortable or uncomfortable talking with a bunch of people and basically admitting, hey, I know I'm doing a lot of stuff wrong. Whether or not they're doing stuff right, that was kind of what the discussion led to, is who's doing what, how can we learn from each other, which is a tough conversation to have for some people, because people in our profession don't like to admit they're wrong.
No, and that's still probably me. As much as I'd like to admit, or as much as I'd like to say I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong, it's still really hard for me to do so. But when I first, just like probably so many people, when I first started coaching, my way was the best way. My way was the right way. I'm not going to change. Anyone who thinks differently is wrong and dumb. But like, as much as I want to say I don't have an ego, like I still do. But
we all do.
It's really hard. And I still, even with the stuff that I'm doing with like putting out content on YouTube, it's still so like, it's hard to get past that Like what's someone going to think when I put this out? Am I putting out the right information? Maybe I'm not putting out the right information and someone's going to call me out on it later. Like, it's hard to kind of get past that insecurity. I struggle with it all the time.
I
But
literally did that today. I was on Instagram and I was like, I could push share and I feel really good about it. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know how it's going to be received, because it could stir the pot a little bit in a good way. I think it could stir the pot though, which I whenever I approach arguments, conversations, like, I approach them with the open-mindedness of learning. Like, if I'm wrong, I hope someone tells me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I would like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So one of my biggest things that, like, whenever I was at UND, the toughest question for me to answer for myself was, how can I objectively measure my own success and failure? And I don't know if you've had that conversation with your inner self, but have you ever thought about that? Like, is that something that has crossed your mind? Because it's tough to do from a strength coach perspective. It really is. I don't think we can really agree on it.
Yeah, no, I think about that all the time. Because there's the kind of like the NSCA standardized way. Are your kids getting stronger? Is their back squat improving? Is their vertical jump improving? If so, then you're doing your job. But at the same time, we know there's a lot more to winning in sports than improving one rep max strength, or max strength, max speed, max power. Like, there's so much more. Like the Fergus Connolly book, the 4 coactive model. There's so many things that are involved with having a successful team. And then there's the other way of evaluating yourself as a coach with injuries. How many injuries are you having? Yeah. Are you having none? Like, but then again, you never know, like, is your intervention, your training system actually the reason that you're getting these results? I think about that all the time. I think you just got to try to find value in what you're doing, pursue value, and then with whatever coaching staff you're working with, try to let them see your value, and hopefully they value it as well, and then come to the best conclusions possible. But no, I think about that all the time, and I think that's why I've changed so much with what I'm doing over the years. 2 years. It's not like I've been in it for 20 years or whatever, but yeah, no, I'm
feels
thinking
like
about
a
that
long
all
time
the
time with this quarantine and everything. It just feels like these last 4 months have been 2 years, and we're still trying to figure everything out. But and I'm not even in strength and conditioning anymore. I'm still trying to figure some stuff out in strength and conditioning. So
I don't think anybody's figured it out, and I don't know if anyone ever will, but the process of trying to figure it out was what makes it fun. And then having arguments, having debates, having conversations with other people on why they think what they do and why they think this way is the most effective way in doing so. I think that's what it's all about.
And that brings value to the entire staff to do that too. And you said it yourself, you work with your sport coach, the assistant coaches, you're a performance team. So when I always thought of an injury, like, the injury, as much as it's the athlete's fault, because maybe they went out the night before, like, all their training could have been on point. Their practice could have been measured. It could have been tracked. It could have been everything like that. Load management, perfect. Well, if they go out the night before, have a couple beers or whatnot with their friends, like, it's going to throw off a lot of training. Yeah. So in my opinion, the injury mitigation, because I hate the term injury prevention, is dictated by the performance team, led by the athlete, supplemented by the sport coach, the assistant coach, the athletic trainer, the strength and conditioning coach, everything. And that all goes into making a holistic model for the athlete.
Right.
And everyone plays a small role.
Yeah. And if say they got practice for 2 hours, that they're training for, let's just call it 60 minutes, is our 60 minutes in the weight room really going to negate all of the negative 23 hours or whatever, however many hours of stress that they have, whether it's self-inflicted or not? I don't know.
It's interesting to look at, and this is a topic for another day, and I don't want to get in because we can go down this rabbit hole for a while. Like, people say, like, we're trying to get maximum genetic potential out of college kids. I'm calling bullcrap on that because the amount of stress that a college kid goes through and you're trying to get genetic maximum performance, I
Yeah.
truly don't believe that can exist. But again, that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Maybe throw some extra stuff online for that. But as we kind of shift topics a little bit, I know earlier we discussed you were doing some research with caffeine. I myself love my cup of coffee in the morning. So talk to me a little bit about what sparked this interest and where you've gone with this.
What sparked the interest? Oh man. Well, I drink Red Bulls, Monsters, Rock Stars, Bangs almost daily. And I think just last week I was just drinking a Red Bull, and I was just thinking about it to myself. Like, am I addicted, but if I didn't drink this Red Bull every day at noon or whatever, would I be motivated to do what I'm doing? And I guess that's probably what sparked it. I was just thinking about it last week. And so I was looking into the research this past weekend, last few days. And I just wanted to answer a few basic questions like, can you build a tolerance to caffeine? How long does the tolerance last? Is there withdrawal effects of not having caffeine for so many days? Like what's the optimal dose for an ergogenic effect? Just kind of basic questions on it. And what I found is that, according to the research at least, is that you can build a tolerance to caffeine within 4 to 5 days for some people. All of it's going to be super individual, just like with most answers to a lot of things. Depends on the individual. But yeah, some people can develop a tolerance within 4 to 5 days. And if you're a habitual caffeine user, it might take it could take about a week or so to reset your tolerance, I guess is the best way to put it.
That makes sense.
And then a lot of the research has looked at, for the dosing at least, 5 to 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight seems to have a positive performance effect, whether it's anaerobic or aerobic performance.
Is there a more, I guess, how does it affect it? Do you know how it affects it differently? Like, is it better depending on the dosage for anaerobic versus aerobic, or is that?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay.
I wish I did. Yeah, I wish I did. I'm sure it does talk about that.
I've seen some research out there from an aerobic standpoint, how like drinking a cup of coffee like helps. And I'm going to butcher the numbers, but it might say like plus 60 minutes plus on an aerobic workout, but
yeah,
that's not, by no means is that accurate. I feel like I'm just making that off the top of my head, but I've seen research out there with it. So,
well, I think most of the research said that the caffeine kind of peaks at about 60 to 90 minutes. So, and then the half-life is 3 to 4 hours. So it's not really gonna wear off on you until 3 or 4 hours after you take it.
it's good.
And what else? Oh, the other thing was, because there's people who take like caffeine pills, there's people who drink energy drinks, there's people who drink coffee. So there's different forms of caffeine. Most of the research has looked at capsules. There really hasn't been anything that I saw that kind of compares the different forms of caffeine. But it seems to be that all forms kind of have a positive impact if you are dosing it appropriately. And then, another thing that I thought was interesting with the caffeine was that the small doses, let's just say someone drinks a Monster, which I think has 80 milligrams per can, if I'm right, maybe a little bit more. For most people, that's not going to be enough to really get the ergogenic effect.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are doing a intensive, exhaustive workout or physical activity, if you take that small dose halfway through or near the end of that session, then you do get a little bit of a boost. Just something with the neurotransmitters, acetylcholine. That stuff's beyond my science comprehension, but so like those small doses can help if you're timing it correctly and dosing it correctly
with the right intensity of a workout too.
Yeah. So and just like I mentioned, everything's so individualized. certain people are going to have different experiences with the caffeine that they're taking. But no, I think the information that I saw was pretty cool. So yeah, I'm gonna make a little YouTube video about that. Hopefully get it done this week and put it out there. So
I'll make sure to share that and everything whenever you put that
awesome.
out. I might just take a Monster, a Rockstar, a Bang, a Rain, and a cup of coffee and just see which one I like better and then start working out.
Oh, and I know we were talking about this kind of right before we started recording, but that just reminded me, a Monster, a Rockstar, cup of coffee. A lot of people would assume that that's a ton of caffeine, but if the research is indicating you need about at like almost a minimum of 5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, or 5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight for the ergogenic effect. I'm 235 pounds. I'm going to need 2 Bang energy drinks to really get that effect, where most people probably think a Monster is like a ton of caffeine. But for someone my size, or I don't know where I'm going with this. I just think that's interesting because, well, I've been told that I shouldn't drink a Red Bull at 6 p.m. because I won't be able to sleep, which that's probably not true, but that's, yeah.
Well, I would wonder what if there's, because obviously they're all different, depending on the sugar content, and even Bang and Rain also don't have the macronutrients or the carbs that Rockstar and Monster have. So I don't know where that all plays into factor as well, but
right. Yeah. Well, yeah, some of the research has looked at caffeine plus carbohydrate ingestion versus caffeine and a placebo carbohydrate versus a carbohydrate and a placebo caffeine. So yeah, all of that stuff's going to have a huge impact, or it's going to play a role on some level. That just makes it hard to really nail down a specific kind of answer.
Right. That makes sense that there would be differences between the two. So
yeah.
All right. Awesome. That's a pretty cool spot. Like I said, I didn't want this to be super long. This is kind of like my start of my little mini podcast for just my guests. Talk about a couple things they're passionate about and everything. Last thing I have for you, just 2. I don't want to say they're easy. I want to say they're simple rapid fire questions because they do kind of make you think a little bit, but they're intriguing. First one, you're sitting at a table with 3 other people. Anyone in the world, alive or dead, no matter what. Who are those 3 people and why?
Man. I got to go with George Washington. I think Jordan Peterson would be another very interesting person. And I'm going to go with Jesus. I'm going to say Jake Tura. I don't know Jake Tura. He doesn't know me, but I follow him on Instagram, posts a lot of great stuff. So I'm going to say Jake Tura.
Jake Tura is awesome. I've only ever had a small Instagram conversation with him a couple times and everything, but he puts some really cool stuff out. Just on patella tendinopathy and how trains the Achilles. And it's great. So shout out to Jake, Youngstown, I believe he still is.
He's an independent thinker. I like that. He's not afraid to just put his stuff out and let people judge it for themselves.
Independent thinker is a very good way to put it. That's a huge compliment to him. So there you go, Jake. I'll make sure to tag him in this. And then the last thing I got for you, what is the most valuable piece of information or valuable piece of advice you've ever been given, and who gave it to you?
Oh my God, you're asking hard questions.
This is the last question I got for you. You got to talk about a couple things you like to talk about, and then 2 thought-provoking questions to finish it off.
I think the best piece of advice, and I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to offend my parents if they hear this because it's not them. But the men's basketball coach here at UND, Paul Sather, what he says to his athletes, which I stole from him, is don't be too cool. And I think that can just apply to everything, just in the sports context with student athletes. Like, don't be too cool to explore in the weight room and try different things. Don't be too cool to sit in the front row of class. Don't be too cool to hang out on a Friday night instead of thinking what's like really cool, like going and getting blasted at Joe Black's, like you know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
Don't be too cool where it's, because what I think is cool is being smart, being kind, being thoughtful, being creative. And for sports, I think winning is cool.
Yeah.
And I think there's a huge culture in college athletics that being cool is not picking up after yourself, showing up to practice when practice starts instead of 10 minutes early, not shagging balls like if you're with volleyball or on a baseball team, like, you know what I mean? Or no, it's cool to clean up your locker room. It's cool to have good grades. It's cool to try, because
It's cool to
I always hated the term like a try hard. You know, that person's a try hard. What do you mean? Like, you should be a try hard in school and sports and your job, whatever you're doing. So that don't be too cool.
You know?
Like yeah, exactly.
That's how I look at, or how I judge respect on people. Like, do they go out and get it? Do they do the little things that take? If that thing takes 10 seconds to do they do that so that someone else doesn't have to take the time to do that?
Yeah.
Is it taking a job away or a hassle of a job away from someone that's in a good way?
Right. So. Yeah. So that I just always think, don't be too cool. I say it to athletes I work with at least once a week. They're probably sick of me saying it, but I just think it's true. It's on so many levels and so many areas of life. Because yeah, don't think that what you're like, I don't know, just do what you think is the right thing to do, and don't worry if other people are gonna think you're lame or a loser. Like, do what you want to do to the best of your ability, and like that's actually what's cool, not a lot of other things so that's where I'm at with that, I guess.
No, I agree.
A little soapbox.
No, that's perfect. And I only got to meet Coach Sather.
Yep, Sather
once before I actually left. I got the opportunity to shake his hand. I wish him the best of luck. And I still watched games this past year of those guys. I wanted all of those guys to do well. I miss all those athletes up there. So if there's any athletes that are still there and you see them, and I worked with them before, or even the volleyball girls, because I didn't work with them, but I saw them all the time.
Yeah.
Tell them I miss them, and hope nothing but the best for those guys, especially the basketball crew. So,
yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for giving me your time. I know your time is precious, and time is the most valuable currency we have. So thank you very, very much.
It's a blast, man. I appreciate you having me on. We'll have to do this again. For sure.
Let's just
I love this.
Like a monthly or a weekly type of thing. We just record us guys talking.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, you take care. I know it's getting late out there, and I know you got an early wake up. So appreciate you being on. And
thanks, Sean.
Take care, man. Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Sean. Have a good one, man.
You too. Bye.